Hey guys, welcome back to an interesting video on Wild Rift. So we're back with an Akshan updated complete guide. Now Akshan, of course, is generally a mid lane marksman who of course does have the infamous revive. And I've actually wanted to do this ever since Kraken Slayer as a rune came out, but I've just never really gotten to actually playing mid lane. So today I spammed a whole bunch of mid lane games, and I managed to get a good gameplay of Akshan that I can show you guys and use for this video. But yeah, so first up I'm going to talk really briefly about, not Akshan, but briefly about the tier list. So now, as you guys know, I did say I would do a tier list for patch 3.3, but when I want to make that tier list video, the Wild Rift Twitter account released the patch 3.3a preview, which basically meant that the patch was going to come out in the next couple of days, which also meant that making a tier list for patch 3.3 wouldn't quite make sense because it will only be, you know, updated for a couple of days. So I'm going to be doing one on patch 3.3a instead. Basically, more or less the next couple of days after the patch comes out, because I think the changes there, I don't see it being too big, so I should be able to do a tier list real quickly with my thoughts on patch 3.3a. But enough about that, we're going to talk about Akshan himself. Now I find that the biggest problem with Akshan is the fact that he deals physical damage. So really, if you play Akshan in the mid lane, which is where he's meant to be played, you could often have a problem where you don't have magic damage, because not every AD carry player will play an APC. Support could be a tank engager or an enchanter that doesn't actually deal AP damage. I mean, they do deal AP damage, but they don't deal a significant amount of damage. And top lane could be a tank or an AD champion, and same for the jungle. So sometimes when you pick AD mid laners, you are left with a team that has no AP. So that's kind of the main problem I feel with Akshan, which is also a problem for like the Yasuos and Zeds, etc. of the world. But in the matches I played Akshan, I found that in more than half of them I didn't have any AP on my team at all, which is sort of problematic. But if the enemy team is not tanky, I guess that does not matter. And if you play Akshan ADC, he sucks. If you play Akshan top, you are missing like a tank or a bruiser, which also sucks. So really, Akshan, I feel, kind of is a slightly problem champion. Of course, mid lane is his best role. But the good thing about Akshan is he's really strong early game, really lane dominant. And of course, when you get to late game, you can't discount him as well, because he does have that revive passive. So anyways, with all that out of the way, we did do a complete guide on Akshan before. So if you guys want to take a look at his skills and leveling order, I will put that up in the cards above for you guys to refer to. So for the interest of time, we're going to just move on to talking about his build, runes, and spells. So I find that out of all the champions in the game, I actually think that Akshan has the most build variation out of every champion in the game. So I'm not really going to go through a build, or rather I am going to go through a build. I'm going to go through this build. This is my personal default build on Akshan, but really Akshan doesn't quite have a default build in my opinion, because you do have a lot of variation in terms of what you can and want to build depending on match to match. So I'm going to go through all of his items that you can build. I'm going to show you guys a couple of combinations you can do with those items. So first up, Blade of the Rune King. In my opinion, if Akshan has a core item, this is the one and only core item Akshan have. But it isn't really even a core item, because some builds don't even use Blade of the Rune King. But what Blade of the Rune King does is obviously it gives you attack speed, attack damage. But the part you are really interested in is, of course, the fact that it applies on hit, which allows it to synergize with Akshan's E, which is the heroic swing. You also get the physical vamp, and as well as the ruin strikes and drain, which of course allows you to steal your enemies' attack and movement speed. So of course it also deals the on-hit percent health damage, I believe, to actually shred tanks. So that's of course helpful all around. Of course we have our most OP ADC item, Storm Razor, dealing of course AD crit as well as attack speed, as well as getting that slow. Then of course you have the IE to boost up the AD and crit even further, and also the crit damage. And of course we do have some form of armor penetration, which is the Maul Reminder for the grievous wounds and armor penetration. Sorola's Grudge also works here, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. And of course GA for the revive. For the boots, Akshan honestly can go with like technically any boots in the game. You can go for Gluttonous Greaves if you want more lifesteal, or some builds don't really build Bork, so you do want to get Gluttonous Greaves or lifesteal. You of course can go for the Boots of Furor, which of course is really good on every ADC, but for Akshan in particular, you do have a lot of mobility with your swing, so it's not as necessary as other ADCs. Merchants and Steel Caps are still really good in matches where you're against heavy AD or AP, especially since you're swinging into the thick of the enemy team. And Lucidity Boots also work really well, because Akshan is really spell reliant, and he relies on his E and his Q a lot to deal damage, so really Akshan can kind of take any boots depending on the match. For the enchant, of course, you do have the Stasis enchant, which is generally going to be your go-to and your best enchant for Akshan. Next up, we also technically can go for Proto Belt, because even though Akshan has his E, it is a problem when enemies block your E, so you can try to Proto Belt away or towards instead, so it still has some usage. You have, of course, the Quicksilver Sash if there is a lot of CC on the enemy team. And of course, if you are one of those guys, you can use the Ionian Repulsor, or not Ionian, you can use the Repulsor enchant, which I don't really use after testing it like once or twice. I'm not a fan of the Repulsor, but if you are, you can go for it. So now I'm going to talk about the various items that Akshan can go for. So there's a lot of crit items Akshan can go for, like the Bloodthirster, which gives you a ton of lifesteal and AD. Someone's inviting me for a ranked match, but I'm in the middle of a video. But anyway, so aside from that, you can technically build other crit items as well, but although I don't really recommend the Static Shift and Rapid Fire Cannon too much, but what I do recommend is the Runan's Hurricane, because the Runan's Hurricane allows you to attack 3 people at once, which applies your passive to 3 people. Of course, as we know, Akshan has that 3-hit passive, so this allows you to proc your passive on multiple people at one time, so this is a really good item for Akshan. And then we also have the Black Cleaver. So Black Cleaver is another item that Akshan loves to build, because when you're swinging, you rapid fire at somebody, and this will stack up the Black Cleaver. Now, of course, I'm actually recording this, I believe it's the day before patch 3.3a, so Black Cleaver has not yet gotten the nerf, but when this video comes out, I think likely either the patch is right about to come out or is already out, so Black Cleaver would have had that nerf. But anyways, what it does is, of course, it gives you more health, which helps you be a little bit more tanky, more ability haste, and attack damage. Of course, that is stats that you like. And mainly, of course, as I mentioned, you do get the Sunder passive, which allows you to shred armor, which helps not only yourself, but a lot of other members who deal AD on your team as well. And of course, you also get that Rage passive, which gives you the movement speed. Now, of course, if you go for Black Cleaver, don't build Boots of Furor, because it will not stack. Alright, so aside from that, defensive option that also procs on hit is a Wit's End. So Wit's End, what it gives you is attack speed, but you don't really care too much about that. You do, but not a lot. The main reason you take this is for the magic resistance, as well as the Wit's End passive, which allows you to deal on-hit magic damage, and also heal yourself if you're below half HP. And this is really helpful for Akshan. This is one of Akshan's core build items for certain builds. Akshan can also, of course, go for other crit items like Essence Reaver and Soul Recharge Blade, but I'm personally not a fan of these items. Then we have the Serelda's Grudge that can replace, of course, the Moral Reminder, but most of the time I prefer Moral Reminder because healing is very rampant in the game, and I feel that the Moral Reminder overall gives more value than the Serelda's Grudge. So really, Akshan can kind of build a whole host of items. So I'm going to show you guys a few sample builds. So one of the first sample builds we have is into a heavy AP team. I personally like Bork, so I go for Bork, then I go for Wit's End. Then, because, like, if you build other crit items, it kind of doesn't really quite make sense. So you either go for an IE or a Storm Razor here for your third item, then you go for Penetration, and then you go for Guardian Angel. Of course, when your GA is down, you can replace it with any of the items that I have shown you guys previously. So a 0 crit build that I have gone for before in one of my matches is something like this. This is like into heavy AP and into like a very tanky team that you want to really shred their armor. So I've gone for this kind of build. Another build that is, of course, really viable is the full crit build, which is gonna look something like this. So this is like full crit, full damage. The Runans can be a Bloodthirster as well, but I'm personally a huge fan of Runans on Akshan. And if my GA is down, I'm gonna get a 4th crit item to get 100% crit. So, as I mentioned, a lot of variation in Akshan's items, and between all of these items, you can go for a lot of combinations, like not going for Bork, or going for like Storm Razor and then Wit's End and then IE, that sort of deal. So really, Akshan's build is incredibly flexible and really kind of depends on number one, your playstyle, and number two, the situation. So personally, this is my favorite default build if I don't need to build like Wit's End or Black Cleaver. This is my personal favorite default build. And when my GA is down, I'm going to take Runan's Hurricane. That's my personal default build. Sorry, not the Sorella's Grudge though. I do have the Mole Reminder in this spot. But yeah, so now we're going to talk about the runes. So, for your Keystone, it's obviously going to be Kraken Slayer, because obviously Akshan's E procs the Kraken Slayer, and he also has a double hit passive that allows you to proc Kraken Slayer really quickly. So before Kraken Slayer's like buff and Conqueror's nerf, Akshan was already taking Kraken Slayer. Now with the changes to both Conk as well as Kraken, Kraken Slayer becomes even better on Akshan. So of course, Kraken Slayer, whenever you do 3 hits, you deal true damage. Of course, with your double hit passive, that makes a lot of sense. And with your E applying on hit as well, this makes a whole load of sense. Akshan just got a whole lot stronger. And now for the domination, I like to actually take Triumph, because Triumph allows you to restore 10% missing health on when you get a kill, as well as deal 5% more damage on low health enemies. Now this really helps you when it comes to your ultimate. Now, your ultimate, in my opinion, is one of the worst ultimates in the game, because it's so hard to hit because it gets blocked by literally everything. However, on the off chance you do get to finish someone off with it, Triumph helps. And Triumph also helps when you're trying to finish off people with your E to get resets. Of course, gives you the health and gives you the damage, so that's really good. What else you can go for is Hunter Vampirism. Of course, having Vamp will never really be bad, so Hunter Vampirism will always really be a good option. And aside from that, I guess you could go for Giant Slayer against a tanky team, but generally I go for Triumph. Now I like to go for Nullifying Orb, because Akshan is a very early game sort of focused champion where you want to roam around and you want to fight in lane. So Nullifying Orb helps you to soak up that little bit of extra damage in the early game that could mean the difference between a 1v1 kill and a 1v1 death. So I do like taking the Nullifying Orb, but if I go for something else, it would be the Hunter Titan, because you're swinging into the enemy team and getting CC'd is highly likely, so this will really help you survive basically swinging into the enemy team. Over here, I like taking Hunter Genius, of course to lower my cooldowns, because as I said, Akshan is a really spell reliant champion. And yeah, so that's what I do like to go for. Now, if I don't take that, I could go for something like Nimbus Cloak, but really what I would go for, which is actually the Pathfinder, because Akshan does a lot of roaming with his W. He can sneak into other lanes without anybody noticing, and he can really gank people really well. You'll see it later on in the gameplay, me roaming around. But yeah, so this is personally my rune setup. And lastly, for the spells, I like going for Flash and Ignite. Now I go for Ignite for the kill pressure in lane, as well as the kill pressure when I'm roaming, and it really helps you secure, not really secure, but kind of like cut their healing as well as deal extra damage. So it kind of really helps you secure the kill. Now if you don't want to go for such an aggressive spell like Ignite, you can also go for something like an Exhaust, which is going to be a lot more defensive option, or a Barrier instead. These two are really good options as well. Personally, I just like going for the Ignite because I want that kill potential. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this section of the guide. Now we're going to move on to the gameplay itself. Alright guys, so here we have the gameplay. Now as usual, when we reach this portion of the video, don't forget to of course like, comment, and subscribe. And any questions or queries, feel free to leave them in the comments below, and I will of course be addressing them. So first up, when I play mid lane, I actually like to ward at this spot at the beginning if possible. Now this is because when you ward the Raptors, it's safer than going to ward the red buff or the blue buff where the jungler might be there. So you ward at the Raptors allows you to see the jungler when they're there. But before we explain more about that, here we got into a 1v1 against Pyke. But as you guys can see, Akshan is really strong in the early game and Pyke is melee. So here I ignite him and I manage to manage to actually get the kill on him. Pyke also blows his ignite but doesn't actually blow his flash. And we do manage to get the first blood with a little bit of HP remaining. So I'm first going to talk about the ward again, about why I warded. As you guys can see, I saw Nunu there, which is why I pinged Nunu was going top. But Garen didn't really care all that much about that. So as I said, that's a safer ward spot than the red buff, but be careful because you still can get caught out. The reason I ward there is because most junglers like to start on the red side, and basically you can see when they're doing the Raptors, so you will know that Raptors will normally be their second or their third camp. They either go Krugs red Raptors, or they go red Krugs Raptors, or sometimes they go red Raptors Krugs. So basically either way you can see all of that. So yeah, so here we have a Nunu invading our blue side, and here I'm trying to come to back up my Garen, who dies before I even reaches there, and yeah, so that doesn't go too well, but we at least managed to push the Nunu off of the buff. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the lane matchup. So here I'm Akshan, I'm against the Pyke, which is a little bit of a unique lane matchup. Firstly, Pyke is sort of not really a traditional mid laner. He kind of just wants to shove and roam and try to get kills elsewhere. And to be fair, Akshan kind of wants to do the same thing, but he can do a better job of that than Pyke, because Pyke is melee, so he has a harder time clearing the wave, whereas I'm ranged, so if he tries to clear the wave, I can try to harass him. And he cannot really try to kill me in lane unless I'm already low. Because the Pyke cannot 100 to 0 anybody really, which is why he's meant to be played as a support, because he doesn't have enough damage to 100 to 0 someone, unless of course he's incredibly fed. So basically this lane matchup, I'm not too scared of Pyke himself, and if he tries to do anything funny to me, I can of course try to kill him, because I do actually have the kill pressure on him if I do get a good swing off and I managed to shoot a lot of bullets with my E. So of course here, because I have better wave clear than Pyke, I can actually shove the wave in, and Pyke is forced to clear the wave, and this allows me time to roam. So here I'm up on my first roam down to the bot lane, of course sneaky with the Akshan W. Show up, start blasting the Nunu, and here my Thresh and my Varus comes in. Nice 3-man flay by Thresh. We do get the kill onto Senna, which gives me the reset. Here I'm onto the Ezreal, and I blast him with my ultimate before he reaches the tower to get the kill. And in the meantime, Thresh picks up the kill on Nunu. So a clean 3-for-0 in the bottom lane, with the Akshan kind of technically counter gank against the Nunu. So that's the whole name of the game with Akshan. You want to shove out your lane and you want to kind of roam to secure kills. Of course, what else Akshan is good at is also killing your opponent in lane. We did that once to the Pyke already. In my opinion, that was because of the Pyke making a mistake to fight us at level 1, but a lot of other matchups, of course you won't get a kill at level 1, but you generally can get a kill in lane if you actually stay in lane and focus on harassing your opponent. And yeah, you guys can see how much damage Akshan does, especially with the new Kraken Slayer. Nearly full on just killed Pyke there. If my Ignite was up, he was basically dead. But I did pop the Ignite on the gank on the bottom lane. So here, of course, we got the new playing system, so I'm of course gonna stick around to get some plates. I do get myself 1 plate, and I decide to stick around to do a little bit more damage. And I spot Nunu, so when I spot Nunu, I'm going away, but somehow I run into the Senna, who is off on the roam herself. So basically at this point, I kind of know that I'm dead, because can't really get past like all 3 of them. Also, we have the Pyke coming in, as well as the Ezreal on the rotation, so basically I'm dead. I did try to flash and survive, but in hindsight probably should have saved my flash, because pretty much there wouldn't be a way that I can really survive there. But yeah, so we do end up dying. Basically you could say it's because we were greedy for a tower plate, but really it's because Nunu and Senna were really good in roaming to really come and kind of gank me. Pyke wasn't really even back or in lane yet, so kind of the calculations in terms of timing was correct, but still the greed for tower playing did get me killed. Alright, so anyways, we're back in the lane, and we're back clearing the lane. So Pyke, as we saw, has just backed, and so we're instead gonna of course shove out the lane, and we're gonna of course push for more tower plates. So here Pyke is back, and as you guys can see, we do get the tower plate, but we do get hooked into the tower by Pyke. We don't aggro him so that we don't draw the tower aggro, and we basically safely walk out. Now we're going to rotate over to the dragon where the fight is at. Enemy team is already there, so I can't come in from that direction. I'm going to have to circle around the pit to join my team, so that I don't just run in 1v3 against the enemies. Here Dragon kind of blocks my ultimate, so that's why Akshan ultimate kind of sucks, because he gets blocked by everything. Our team does manage to actually get the dragon, and here we finish off 2 kills, which is going to turn into 4 kills. There we go. So basically Riven gets a triple, and I believe Varus gets a kill. So we overall did manage to get the dragon as well as 4 kills, with really great for us. So here yet again people are dead, so of course what am I going to do? I'm going to be trying to shove down the tower to get plates. So here, trying to get that last plate before the tower playing falls, but here I do get ignited by Pyke, and I'm in trouble. As you can see, I get hooked straight into the snowball, and I do die. So yet again, 2 deaths. The first death I think was a little bit more acceptable, but this death was really just greeding for tower plates. Really kind of a syndrome that I have. I'm really greedy for tower plates, which I kind of gotta try to stop myself, because I'm giving away free kills, which is worth more gold than the tower plates that I actually got. So anyways, in the meantime, we can check out the action on the other lanes, where Varus picks up a kill on the Nunu in the bot lane, and Riven and Garen are trying to go onto the kill. So anyways, I'm back up and alive, back down to the mid lane. And yeah, so here as usual, I'm gonna ping the enemy is missing, so that we know that Pyke, so my team knows that Pyke is not around. Turns out there he is. As you guys can see, he simply cannot 1v1 me. He can only do it if he has help. Like for example, just now with the Nunu, he cannot kill me on his own. So really, I'm really safe here. Thresh shows up, and I am able to actually thread the needle and kill the Pyke with my ultimate in between the two towers. So yeah, so basically if you understand Akshan's damage, you know that you can even dive enemies like what I just did there, and you can still get the kill. So anyways, here we're going for a 3-man collapse onto the Ezreal, who is a little bit overextended himself. So here I ignite him straight away to cut his healing, and we are able to pick up the kill onto the Ezreal, which also allows us to actually pick up the bot lane tier 1 tower. Alright, so now that we've gotten that, we can safely recall as well as pick up a couple items. So in this particular match, I went for my default build, of course Bork into Stormrazor, and then going for my Stasis, I believe, and then I go for the IE. So yeah, as I mentioned, Akshan's build is really flexible. I kind of actually wanted to show a gameplay where I go for like Wit's End and Black Cleaver, which there was a gameplay, but that didn't actually turn out too well in the end. So anyways, here we're of course back in mid, and we're respecting the Nunu because we don't know where anybody else is. Like, I can't see anybody else on the enemy team, so they could be hiding and lying in wait for me to basically make a mistake. So I don't want to really walk up too much, but turns out that I'm fine. So here I'm gonna clear the lane yet again, and we can basically go off on our adventures to other lanes. So here basically we don't really see anything too much happening. We see the Kayle actually, and the Garen is engaging on her. We have a 4-man collapse coming in on the Kayle. Kayle ults, and now that we know her ult is out, Thresh goes in, and basically she's guaranteed to be dead. It's only who really picks up the kill. So this allows us of course to pick up the tower as well, and we also summoned the Rift Herald. So Rift Herald gets in the charge before we manage to destroy the tower. Which is a little bit unfortunate, but we can use the Rift Herald to push onto the 2nd tier tower as well. Since we obviously just killed the Kayle, Nunu is dead as well, and we can see the Ezreal and Senna in the bot lane. So basically, there's only Pyke left to defend, so really the enemy team can't really stop us from doing too much. The Rift Herald does die though, so instead we're just going to go back and not try to over push for the inhibitor tower itself, because obviously the enemy team could actually respond to that now. So here in this match I went for plated steel caps because basically their entire team was physical damage, aside from Kayle, who does mixed damage, as well as Nunu, who is building tank and doesn't do too much damage. So thought that would be a good pickup for now, and I also get the stasis for myself. Akshan getting stasis is really important because a lot of times you go in and you don't get kills or resets, and you kind of need the stasis to survive for your team to back you up. So here, Thresh kind of gets caught 1v3, but we kind of try to turn it around onto the enemies. I'm swinging, and I'm trying to DPS the Kayle down, which we do manage to get 2 swings on her. Pyke hooks me into the wall, and here I'm going to channel a full-powered ultimate onto the Pyke, causing the Pyke to live on, I believe, a single-digit health, like if you take a look at the how much health he actually has. But yeah, I think actually going out of vision and proccing his passive actually saved him there. If not, I would have gotten the kill. Either way, here the tower is about to fall, and it does actually fall to the minions. So we're gonna just clear out the minions and then proceed over to the dragon to help out our Riven. Right, here in comes Nunu. So the most logical move is to kill Nunu first, because of course Nunu does have the smite consume combo, which allows him to secure the dragon. So here we're gonna finish off Nunu, and at the same time my Avenger Ran gets both the kill on the Nunu as well as the dragon itself. So really good Q from me there. And here Garen goes into another 1v1 with the Kayle and just dies before I can even reach there. I try to ult the Kayle, but obviously Kayle is still like basically full health, so that's not really gonna do anything. But I was actually planning to combo the ult with my like E and go in on her, but she was a little bit too fast for me, so instead we're just gonna have to move on to the consolation prize of getting the Rift Herald instead, which is of course still really, really good. Alright, so Rift Herald secured. Nunu is in to try to contest the Rift Herald, which we of course already did get. Gets hooked by the Thresh and dies. So we do get another kill onto the Nunu. Really nice, really, really beautiful. And here we're just going to push in the mid lane. And we've kind of run out of mana, which is not really a huge problem for Akshan normally. Of course, unless you stay out on the map for really long, like I have just done. So anyways, we go back, get a BF sword and get a glove, and call it a day. And now we're back onto the map and ready to wreak havoc onto the enemy team. But yeah, something I like to point out is that if you guys can see, Akshan's ultimate really does very, very little. Like, I did use it to get a kill on the Pyke, but that was kind of really lucky that Pyke didn't actually manage to get behind any of his two towers. But normally it really doesn't do anything. It gets blocked by teammates, minions, or the tower. I mean, it gets blocked by jungle monsters as well. It gets blocked by everything. So generally there will be something that is able to block for the person you have to kill. Unless the person is like 1 HP, then maybe it would help. Alright, a skirmish sort of starts breaking out around the river area. And of course we're going to try to ult the Nunu. As you guys can see, obviously somebody blocks it. I believe it's Ezreal that blocked it. So don't actually get the kill onto the Nunu. And yeah, so here Nunu comes in with the snowball, gets a knockup onto both me and Varus, but no fallout from his team, so nothing too much comes of it. Thresh, I don't know what he was aiming for there, but hooks, absolutely nothing. And Riven looks like she wants to go in, but in my opinion, this is a good, kind of a good time to just back off. Like, there's not too much to do here. We're not gonna be able to siege that second tier tower with the entire enemy team in the vicinity. But either way, I'm in stealth, and they think that Riven is alone, but actually she isn't. So when they get caught in the fight, they realize that me and Varus are actually here. And my red buff does actually manage to kill the Nunu. So really nice there, gives me the reset. I do get rooted, so no real fallout from me after that. But I do try to launch a rogue ult, which I honestly think isn't even that bad. Because when you launch like rogue ult, you at least deal the damage to them. But when they're like low, they're always going to get behind something to kind of block it. Anyways, here I try to go aggressive, but everybody basically goes invisible, and I can't actually hit anybody. Of course, Senna goes into the mist, and Pyke goes into his Ghost Water dive, and basically I can hit anybody. But here we do use the Rift Herald to pick up the inhibitor tower itself. So we do have 2 inhibitors already. Really good spot for me and my team. This is one of the best places to swing around, which is the inhibitor tower. I guess the base of the inhibitor tower. You can basically go in like 2 circles, and it deals a whole lot of damage if nobody blocks you, as you guys can see there. So here the plan was actually to back off, but that isn't quite happening with my team, and ends up giving Pyke 2 kills. I do flash forward to kill the Senna to try to salvage the situation, but after that I'm gonna just back off. Now honestly, I think me and Garen could actually fight Ezreal and Pyke, but really there's no reason to take any unnecessary risk, especially since my team is winning by a pretty large margin at this point in time. So really there's no reason to take any unnecessary risk. So we're just gonna back, and I'm gonna actually hit over and pick up the red buff. The Infernal Dragon is of course spawning in about 30 seconds, so that's the next objective we're gonna have to fight over. Yeah, so as you guys can see, Akshan with the Mountain Rift actually kind of benefits him quite a bit, because he does get a couple of extra walls he can swing around, like for example that one at the red buff, and the wall at the Dragon Pit he can also swing around if you aim your swing correctly. He can go a couple of rounds around that Dragon Pit wall. Alright, so here Riven is trapping and does run into the Nunu. Nunu basically gets hooked in, gets kill ulted, uses his gargoyles, and there you can see I swing in and nothing really happens. So that's what you call a really, really bad swing, which is why you need the stasis to kind of save yourself if you do something stupid like that. I swung myself into the entire enemy team and really didn't do all that much. But anyways, we do salvage the situation with the stasis, and we are able to pick up a double kill. And at this point in time, only Ezreal is left alive. Ezreal, of course, has really horrible wave clear, so we can basically force the end of the game at this point in time. Riven, for some reason, still onto the dragon instead of actually trying to end the game, but doesn't really matter. We don't need her help. So here, me, Garrett, and as well as Varus is simply gonna end the game. Alright, so as usual, I'll leave you guys with the stats. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and goodbye.